Hello everyone, welcome to the session. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, before we proceed, can I ask a doubt?
Doubt? All right, go ahead.
So I'm doing my Med 1 project on hospital management system,
Mhm.
and in that I need to ask who is going to make the appointments.
Who is going to make the appointments? Patient.
Yeah,
Patient makes the appointment.
patient.
Yeah.
Uh,
So basically, what happens is the doctor, so a registered doctor will, set up certain duration during the day. That okay, this time I will be available. This time I'll be available. So it's like a slot that the doctor creates over a period. So in our case, it is 7 days, right? So a doctor will create or show their availability for the coming 7 days, and whoever patient wants to take the treatment from the doctor or particular department, they will just book the slot, right? So it's like a requesting for the appointment. All right, so it will be the patient.
Thank you. Okay, got it.
All right, so fine. Before we proceed, I just wanted to confirm. I think the last session, Saturday, there wasn't any session, right? The session did not happen, right? Did anybody from you join?
Yes, sir. There was no session on Saturday.
Yeah, yeah. So the problem was we thought the session was cancelled from our end due to the OPP exam and everything, but unfortunately the event was still there. So that is the reason none of the instructor had. All right, and with that, the content of the give me a minute. Yeah, so with that, the content of the content of week 7, the open session of week 7, which we wanted to cover, also could not be covered due to the absence of that session, right? So what we are going to do is we will cover certain topic today. All right. So they will continue with the week 8 content today, that is security, and most probably I'll be finishing off the content in the today's session itself, right? And in the coming Saturday session, we will take the week 7 content, which could not happen, right? So in today's session, we will cover up the week 8 security part, and in the Saturday's open session, we will take the CLI part. So that CLI part is an important thing, not with respect to theory as such or even the quiz as such, but for the project, right? So many of the students prefer using Vue CLI for their project, and that is the reason what we'll do is we'll take that session in the Saturday. Okay, so that is going to be there. And in today's session, we will understand how do you secure your application using Flask security. All right. Now there are two things, two approaches that you can use for securing your application. I mean, as far as our syllabus is concerned, or the extensions of Flask are concerned. One is you can use Flask security, or you can use JWT. All right. What is JWT? JWT stands for JSON Web Token. So basically, in either case, you create token itself, but in case of Flask security, there is a specific way of doing it. And similarly, in case of JWT, there is a specific way of doing it. All right. We are going to follow JWT method. And probably in one of my older sessions, I had taken the security part also. All right. So I will add the link to that session also. And once the session gets over, so that you have, access to both the session and you can refer. And whichever you find easier, you can refer to that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Himanshu, you raise your hand, right?
Sir, what is the prerequisite to join the session? Like in the last, I guess your session itself, I learned about the routers, view routers. So is
Right.
that all, or
No, that's okay. I mean, the prerequisite to this session is you need to know Flask. All right.
okay? Hmm.
We will be creating some Flask routes using SQL Alchemy and
Hmm.
Flask. All right.
Okay.
And then on that, we will add on with JWT. Okay. So that is
Okay.
the overall requirement. With
Hmm.
respect to Vue, we would not need anything. Why? Because we are now working on the backend part. Okay.
Okay, sir. Hmm.
So
Okay.
this content that we're going to deal with is a backend part. That is the reason we will only deal with Flask and its extensions, no Vue today. Okay. All right. Okay, so as I said, in today's session, what we are going to cover is we will create an application. To larger extent of this session, that application will look very simple and very familiar to what you have been doing so far. So we'll be creating a Flask application where there is a user. So with respect to a user, there will be a user model and database. All right, and then we are going to create a login system. Okay, first unprotected. I mean, anybody can just bypass it without knowing the credentials, and then we'll try to protect it with the help of JWT. So that is going to be the agenda of the session. All right, we have taken similar sessions in Mad1 also, where I was explaining Flask login, right? So there we have done session-based authentication. In today's session, or with respect to Mad2, we'll do the token-based authentication because it is more relevant to safeguarding your APIs. Okay, when it comes to session-based authentication, it is internally linked with Flask, right? So you don't need to worry about APIs and stuff. But in case of Mat2 content, what we generally do is we create our backend with the help of APIs. So our backend is nothing but most of the APIs, and that is the reason it is important to safeguard or protect our APIs, right? Token-based authentication does that very nicely and very in a simplistic manner. So we'll do that in that sense. Okay, so just give me a minute. I'll just create a folder and then share this link with you. Yeah. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. This is VS Code that I've just opened. All right. Okay, so we are
Yes,
going to create the Flask application. And as I said, for most part, it is going to be very similar to what we have done so far, right? So what I'll do is first I'll create the app.py. Okay, app.py, and I'm not looking into modularization much. So I will not. I will be creating only one or two modules. I'll not be not be going into breaking the entire app into multiple modules because this what we are going to do here is a very small code and probably will not take a lot of time for me also to code, right? So I want to keep everything together so that you can relate, right? Now, when you move on to larger application, then you can decide on breaking it down into multiple modules. If you want to do it that way, then you can follow the previous terms live session. So same thing, right? Week 8 AQPQ session, I think. So there I have done the modularization. So I just want to, bring that small variation so that, the students have every other approach that is there. Okay, so in today's session, I'm not be going with the modularization, only one module and that's it. Okay, so our entire database, model that we are going to create, routes that we are going to create, configurations that we are going to do are going to be there in the same single module. Okay, so what I'll do first is I'll import Flask because that is what we'll need at the basic level. From Flask, import Flask, right? So once this is done, there will be multiple other imports also, but at this point we'll just need this. And maybe I can also import Flask SQL Alchemy, right? Because we'll do the configurations and everything together. From Flask, SQL Alchemy, import SQL Alchemy. All right, now I'll just create the Flask object or the app object. App equals to Flask underscore is underscore underscore. All right, so my application object is created. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is app.config. Okay, app.config. So what are the configurations generally we do when working with database?
database UI.
Database URI, right? So SQL Alchemy, SQL Alchemy, database URI, URI. All right. And what is this going to be?
Sir,
write
key
it in
will be
string.
string.
Sorry,
Key will be string.
he will be
This SQL
this
Alchemy
this
data.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just what to keep in the string. This is going to be a string. All right, then SQLite colon slash slash slash. Okay, just name it relevant to what we are trying to do today. So JWT data dot SQLite3. Okay, so SQLite is going to be the extension. So this is how we configure our application with database. All right, and then finally we will create the SQL Alchemy object or the DB object. So DB equals is going to be SQL Alchemy. Okay, and then we'll pass on the app object here. Okay, so now what happens here? This line number 6, basically links the DB object with the application object that we have created, and internally they are connecting the database with the Flask application. All right. So once this is the basic configuration we need at this point. Okay, we will need more configurations later, but we'll do as and when we require them. Okay, so once this is done, what we will do is we'll create the user model. Okay, so how do we create user model? Plus, it is going to be a class user. Okay, and then this will inherit db.model. Okay, now not going to a lot of details of this because we have so many times covered these things, right? So we're not going to go into details of this, and I'm pretty sure most of you know what is happening here. All right, now this DB model will have ID. So the first thing is going to be ID. It is going to be DB dot column, and within that we'll write DB dot integer. Okay, and then primary key equals to set to true. Right, so this is going to be the first attribute. The second attribute, since we are going to store user credentials in the user model, the user credentials are generally going to be username, email, password, right? So we'll work with email and password, or username and password, does not matter. Anything we can use. Let's go with username and password. Okay, so it is better. Username, db dot column, db dot string. Okay, then obviously username should be unique and should be non-nullable. Should be non-null. So we'll write unique db.string, and this you can keep as parenthesis. Unique equals to true. Okay, so it will be unique for every user, and non-null, right? So nullable equals to false. Okay, same goes with password. Okay, so I've just copied the line just below it. Same goes with password. So I'll change this attribute name to password. Okay. One thing that I want to change is I will just remove this attribute unique equals to true. Okay, because it is possible that two users may have same password. Okay, what actually differentiates them is the username. What verifies whether the credentials are this is the correct user or not will be the password. So it does not matter if the passwords match, right? Two people can have same password. All right. So this is going to be the user model as of now, right? So if there are, let's say, multiple models and we need relationships, we'll add them as and when required. But since we are only working with login and protection of routes, at this point only user model is required. Okay. So that's all for the user model. All right. Now what I'm going to do is let us create a route. All right. So how do you create a route? @app.route. Okay, and slash, let's say the first route is going to be login. Okay, slash log. All right. Now this slash login is had it been a Flask application using render template and all, I would have just created as a route with using methods like render template and others, and I would have created form, right? But I'm not going to create a form here because I will be this is only backend, right? So I'll be creating an API. Okay, so I will be only dealing with post method. Okay, so what do I mean by that, or why am I saying that I will be dealing with post method? Because I want to trigger this login method, or sorry, this login endpoint only when there is a data sent from client to the server. Okay, I don't want to send or I don't want to retrieve a form from this endpoint. Right? This means I don't need a get method for this endpoint. I just need post method. Okay, I just need post method. So for now, what I'll do, I'll just keep it as it is. and then create a route. Okay, so let's say user underscore login, user underscore login. And since we are going to create API, will be, how will a data be put to this endpoint? Can somebody tell me how will data be put to this endpoint?
As a
Considering that
JSON
this is
body.
as a JSON, right? So if the
Yeah.
JSON, as a JSON meaning as a request body, the entire data will go as a JSON string. So we should be able to retrieve that JSON string here within the definition of our function. Okay, view function. All right. So how are we going to retrieve that definition using some methods that deal with JSON? All right. Now I know
Hmm.
that the first thing that I'm going to retrieve is going to be username. All right. This is going to be username. What is the other thing that I'm going to retrieve? Password. Okay. I need username. I need password. ID I don't really need because it is going to be auto added into database. The moment new user gets created, it will be auto added into the database. I don't need to really worry about it. Okay. Okay, now let us see how do we get it. Obviously, we'll need the request object because we'll be dealing with the same request object we dealt with Flask, a basic Flask application. All right, so request, had it been form, what we would have written? Request.form.get, right? We would have written request.form.get. But now the data is coming through JSON. So this form will be replaced by JSON. Okay, request.json.get. And here we can provide whatever we are trying to get, right? So what are we trying to get here? Username. Okay, and we can also mention none, right? So if let's say if there is no username mentioned, by default, this username will have none value. Okay, so this is like what we are trying to retrieve, and this is the default value. I mean, what we are trying, the first argument to this get method would be the attribute that we are trying to retrieve. And the second argument is going to be the default value, what you want to set it as default. Okay, same goes with password. So I'll just copy this much and paste it here. And obviously this username will be replaced by password. Okay, now this username and password, where is this coming from? This is coming from the JSON, right? So you need to set that if I am putting or if I'm using username as value here or the attribute name here, in the JSON also I'll have to provide username only. I cannot provide name or user or anything else. If this is username, this has to be username. JSON should also have username. I'll show you what I meant by this. All right, same goes with password. All right, now there is this one issue, request, right? So this request will be imported from Flask. So we'll import it from here, request. All right, now that I have user and password, what I'm going to do is, first, we need to check whether this username exists in the database or not, right? So the first way to check this, whether this username exists in the database or not is, we'll try to filter, we'll try to query and try to get user with the username, right? So how am I going to do this? Let's say I'll just create a user object here. I mean, user variable here, and try to retrieve the user from the database with the help of username, right? So how do we do that? User dot query dot filter by. Okay, filter by, and what are we going to filter by? Username. Username equals to username. All right, and here we can so there can be multiple methods. Here we are going to write. We can either write first here, right, like we used to do in while studying SQL alchemy. But there is also one more method, that is one or none, right? So one or none. Okay, with parentheses, both will work the same way. All right, either first or one, doesn't matter. But the thing is, I'm not sure what happens if you do not get. I think the none by itself will come. So I mean, you can say it is the same method. I can write it here also first, or you can write dot first. All right. So what will happen with this? If the user object exists, if a user exists in the database whose username is this, right? Then you will have something here. If the user does not exist, then you will have none here, right? So there are two possible values. You either you have user object, okay? Either you have user object or you have none. Okay, these are the two possible values of this command that you have written, right? Or this piece of code that you have written. Okay, and once we retrieve the user, we can then check. Okay, we can then check multiple things. Okay, now if user exists, this means the application should prompt me to create another username, right? Because let's say if I'm trying to Okay, let us talk about register itself. So let's say if this is, login itself. Let's say if this is a login endpoint. If the username exists, then and then only it should go and check for the password. If the username itself does not exist, there is no point in checking the password. Okay. So if the user exists, the next step should be, it should go for checking the password. Okay. If the user does not exist, then we can simply return, return a response that the user does not exist. Okay. How do we do that? Let's see. If not user. Okay. So if the user does not exist, okay. If the user does not exist, what we can do? Return. See, either you can return a JSON like this directly. You can return a JSON like this, or you can use another method which is called as JSONify, which converts your arguments into a JSON. Okay, how do you use it with that? I'll show you, but let me just finish this also. So if not user, what you are going to return? You are going to return a message. Okay, your server should be able to should be able to return relevant messages to you, giving a proper feedback. What exactly happened? If the code worked properly, what happened? If the code does not work properly, what exactly happened? All right. So this is the first thing that we are going to return. For example, if the user does not exist, right? If the user does not exist, then it should write user name, or user with the given username does not exist, right? Given username does not exist. Okay, this is going to be the message. And obviously, if the username does not exist, this means what is the issue? There is an issue with the request itself, right? Because the username that we provided does not even exist in the database. This means I have a bad request, right? Therefore, we are going to return 400 as status code. Okay. Now, what is this 400 status code? 400 status code means bad request, which means if there is any wrong information provided in the request itself, if the structure of the request itself is wrong, then the response should be 400. Okay, with the proper message. So what is going to happen at this stage? If the user does not exist in the database, you're going to get this message and the status code is going to be 400. Okay, that is one thing. What is going to be the next condition? The user exists, right? So if I write else, then once it is confirmed that the user exists, that means this, if this condition gets false, this condition is going to be true, right? So if the user exists, only then it should go for and check for password, right? It should go for and check for password, right? So then here we will check password. If now that we have password, we have to verify whether the password provided by the user is equal to the password actually there exists with the user, right? So here I'm going to write user.password, right? Because now I have user object. In the else condition, user exists, right? So I'll write here in the comment. User exists, right? This means if the user exists, user object has proper values. Right? What do I mean by that? The user object, the entire user object was retrieved successfully. If it was retrieved successfully, obviously there has to be username provided, right? There will be username associated with the user object, password associated with the user object, and ID associated with the user object. This means if the user exists, I can access any of its attributes, right? And this attribute must be verified with the password provided, right? So this should be our condition. Right. So what is happening here? If the user does not exist, it returns user with the given username does not exist. But if it exists, then it should go one step further and then check for password. Okay. If this password is correct, if the password is verified, then it should return, okay, you have, okay, both the things are there. Okay. But if the password is also incorrect, okay, so what I'll write instead, I'll write if not. I mean, I'm writing the negative conditions first, right? Here also you can see I've written if not user. Here also I've written if not user.password, right? So if this condition fails, then I'll return another message, okay, which is going to be very similar to this message. Okay, I'm going to return another message. Sorry. What is going to be the message? User with given username does not exist. This is not the right message, right? Invalid password. wrong password provided, invalid password, anything we can write. Invalid password. Okay, invalid password. And then finally we'll write the else condition.
Well, it should be 401.
401. Why is that?
Authentication field, right?
Authentication, not really. See, this is authentication will fail if there is any issue with the condition, I mean, authentication fail will happen if the user is not properly, if the credentials of the user are not provided correctly. Okay, that is fine. That is not what we are going to do now. What is the issue with what is happening here? What is the issue with this situation? There is some issue with the request itself. Either you are providing the wrong username or you are providing the wrong password. Okay.
Mhm.
So at this point, I'll just keep it as 400. Okay. Now coming to 401, that is the next step that we are going to follow. And obviously, in that case, the status code by itself, by default, will become 401. So this state will never come in that case. Okay. So I'll just keep 400 for now. All right. So what is happening here? The user is there. Okay. If not user, it returns user with the given username does not exist. If the user exists, it checks for password. Okay. If the password does not match, then it returns invalid password with 400 status code. Okay. Now, what is the remaining condition? The user exists. This means the username has been verified. It has retrieved from the database, and and the user, sorry, and the password is also verified, right? So I'll just write it as an else condition. Write it as an else condition. Okay. In the else condition, what are we going to return? We are going to return, for now, I will just return a simple statement, return message. We are going to replace this statement later. But as of now, we'll write, let's say user found. Okay. User found. And we don't need to provide 200 status code, because if you're not providing anything and if the complete run happens by itself without any issues, without any other status code, but the default status code for any successful operation is going to be 200 only. So I don't need to explicitly write something like this. I can just leave it as it is. All right. So what is happening here? What is happening here? The user is being verified. Okay. If the user does not exist, it will tell you, okay, user does not exist. If the password is not valid, it will tell you password is not valid. Okay. Is there any issue till this point in the conditions?
No, sir.
Yeah, somebody raised hand. I'm not able to see. You can just go ahead and ask a query.
Sir, is this a get request or a post? Is this a get route or a post route? And do we have to specify them?
Yeah. At this point, it is since I've not specified any method, what is going to be the default? It is going to be get.
Get, yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah,
And
at this point, it
sir,
is get.
one more thing, sir. Where are we returning these messages, these JSONs?
These messages are written. So these are the responses of the APIs, right? So these are returned as responses. Okay. See,
To the
whenever
APIs.
Yeah. So whenever this application runs, what is going to happen? You will be going to this /login endpoint, right? So what do you mean by going to /login endpoint? It triggers the functionality, right? And whatever is final return of the function based on the condition, that will be the response of the server. Okay. What are we writing here? We're writing the server code, right? So when you go to login, obviously there has to be some response that is returned. So this returns, whatever we have written here, this returns are going to be one of the responses. Okay.
Yes, sir. One more thing, sir. Where are we getting this request.json dot get? I mean, how do we implement that part?
Yeah. So at this point, we are going to, so we created this backend, and since this is an API, we do not have a front end of this, right? So that front end, we will be, we'll be using a third party application. Either it is going to be Postman or the Thunder client. So we are going to make this request through Postman or Thunder client. Okay. Once the code is clear to you, I will then, proceed and make it run and show you.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay. Now somebody, I think somebody of you mentioned why it should not be 400, right? We can write it as 400, right? So at the end of the day, If the password does not match, if the username matches but the password does not match, what does it mean? You're trying to provide wrong credentials, right? So ultimately you're not authorized, right? So what you can do is you can write all of these things in one statement itself. Okay. As of now, I wanted to explicitly mention what was the issue with request, right? That is the reason what I did. I wrote 400 and with the message, 400 with the message. Yes, something is wrong with the request. Something is wrong with the data provided with the request, and hence that it is a bad request. I want to throw bad request, and what is wrong with the request will be given by invalid message. Okay. Now I will change this code so that you can just return one statement. All right, and it will return 401. Okay, so I'll make the code such that it returns 401, because if you superficially look at it, it is going, what is happening internally, you are trying to verify whether the user exists or not. And if the user provides wrong credential, he should, you should get that status code 401. Okay, first we'll run this and then we'll do that part. Okay, are we clear till this point? Okay, let us try. As of now, I think this is fine. And yes, somebody mentioned that we have to write post method. That also we can do, but this also we can do as of now without any mentioning any method. Why is that? Because when we are going to make a request with either Postman or with the Thunder client, it is us who decide, what is going to be method. So I can trigger this functionality even with get method. Okay, we'll see that also, and then I'll put the post method. Okay,
Sir,
with
but if you try this route with the post method, then it will throw method not allowed error.
no, at this point it will throw. I'll add the methods, no later when I try with
Okay,
post.
okay, okay.
Yeah, at this point, if I try with post method, definitely it will throw method not allowed. Okay, so we'll do app.run and we'll set the debug to true. Debug to. Okay, let's see if there is any issue with this. Okay, now before I run this application, what will I have to do is I will have to open the shell. Okay, so I'll just open the terminal. Okay, open terminal. And yeah, so there is one more thing that I want to do is I will write if condition, right? So if name equals to main. Okay, now I'll tell you why I'm doing this. So what is going to happen first to actually create the database? You see, we do not have a database, right? So we need to trigger a method that creates database, and it should happen only once, right? So instead of writing here app.db.create on and all those things, I'll do it through shell. Okay, so how do I do it? First, I'll open the Python terminal here or Python shell here on the terminal. Right. So here Python shell is open, and within the Python shell, I'll import everything from the app object. Right. So from app import star. Okay. Now what happens when you run this command? Well, you are actually importing all the things, all the methods, all the variables and everything from which are defined in the app object. At the same time, if this name dot main condition is not returned, if name equals to main condition is not returned, it will also run the application, which I do not want. Okay, I just want to open this shell and import variables from the application. Okay, I don't want to run it. And that is the reason I mentioned this condition. Okay, now unless I do Python app.py, this app.run is not going to run. Okay, so you are going out of module and then importing file, right? So that is the reason this condition comes in handy. Okay, now when I do this, you'll see the app.run will not run. Okay, right? So app.run did not happen because I'm trying to import module. When you import module, you're not running the actual module, you're just importing it. Okay, now once everything is imported from the module, I will, if when I say star, everything is imported, this means DB is also imported, right? So I can write a DB dot create all. Okay, okay, some issue. All right, so there is one thing that I just forgot to add, the context, right? So I will have to write app context dot push.
But
Everything is just
sir,
push.
you can do this without pushing the context also.
Uh, okay, how will you do that?
Like
Tell me the other way.
you have the application object here, the app object here inside your terminal that is imported. So from app.app, you can use that context there itself without pushing
That's okay.
it.
That's okay. Multiple ways of doing it. I'm just following the way which I used to do it, right? When I used to take skill alchemy session. It's okay. You can, there can be multiple ways.
Okay.
So I'll use this push context because this is what I used to do, right? Now I'll exit and do it from the beginning. Python shell, and then we'll import everything from the app. Okay, and then the DB call. All right. So now the error didn't come, right? So this basically pushes the context. You can write this also. So there are multiple ways of writing this also, right? You see, it says with app.app context, right? So you could have written a small piece of code here with app.app context, and then would have written app.push. Doesn't matter. Multiple ways of doing it. All right. Now, what is important to us is to see that this JWT data database is created, right? And okay, let this thing open. Yeah. Now, then what is happening here? There is this user object, okay, user object or user table, which has three attributes with it, right? ID, username, and password. Okay. Why is it showing not safe? Anyway, now my work of shell is done, right? The only objective I wanted to do, though my only objective of opening shell was to create this database. All right, and since I wanted to do it only once, I opened shell. Now I don't want to keep on doing db dot create all. I don't want to keep on doing it because my database is already created. So what I'll do now, I'll exit the shell. Okay, exit the shell, and now I can simply run Python or this module in the conventional way. What is that? Python app.view. All right. Now you see the app.run is running. Right. So you're now actually running the app module instead of importing it somewhere else. Okay. Now if this is running, let us see what happens. Now since I have created this as an API, well, I'll also test it with the API only. Test it the way APIs are tested. Right. So let us do the Thunder client thing. I think this is. Okay, so Thunder client is the way of making HTTP requests to any any server, any web page, any server. Okay, you can either use Thunder client or you can use Postman, right? So most of you would not have Postman installed in your system, so it's better to install Thunder client because it is the extension of VS Code, and I'm sure VS Code everybody is using. All right. So once the VS Code you just go to the extensions from here and then install Thunder client. All right. Now what we can do is make a new request from here. Right. So how do we make a new request? It will open the new request and it will tell you to enter the URL here. What is going to be our URL? HTTP. Oh, it is there already. Okay. So HTTP/5000/login. And at this point, we are going to make a GET request. Okay. Let's see what happens. If this throws any issues, then we will change it to post. Okay. We are going to put body. What happens is, let's say we are showing a get method, right? So when you send a get method, generally the generally the parameters or the data transferred with get method get attached to the URL itself as query parameters. We can see if that happens with the body also. Okay. Now, as I said, what is going to be our body structure? First, it is going to be username. It is going to be username. And the second thing that we're going to have is password. Okay. Can I use something like this here? User underscore name. Will this work?
It should match with the key in the data in the request form. The request
Correct.
ending.
Correct. That's what I mentioned, right? So when we were doing this, when we were writing this, I mentioned this username, right? So where is this username coming from? It should match with the exact key we have used, right? So either I write username here. So if I've written username here, if the way it is defined in the server code itself is this, while making the request, I have to be cautious that I use the same keys here. Okay. If I'm using underscore, if I want to use, let's say user underscore name here, then I have to make sure that at the back end, I change it to underscore. Okay, but this is the right way of doing it. Username. All right. Now let's say I write username user underscore 01, right, and password 12345. Right, it is string, so I'm passing on string, and obviously there has to be a comma. Okay, so this is going to be my request body. This is going to be my request body. All right, let me just to make a request and see what happens. right? So what it says, it gives bad request. So what is happening here? You can see that the method, the application is still working. It is not showing method not allowed error or any other error. Why is that? Because when I do things with Thunder client, any agent that allows me to make any HTTP request with any method, I can choose which method I want to work with, right? So with the get method, it is working because it is defined in with get method only. So if you see app.py, I've not mentioned any method. Where is it? Yeah. Not mention any method. This means by default, this entire endpoint will get triggered with get method only. Okay. Now let us go to this request again. And what is happening here? It says username 01 with this name, username 01 does not exist. Why is that? Because we just created the database and we do not have any data within it. Okay, we do not have any data. So what I'll do is I'll manually create a entry here. Okay, so entry is going to be, let's say, user 01, same thing which I created, which I used there. User1 and password 12345. Right, let us commit this. Okay, okay, it gave the primary key 0. Can I delete it? I don't want to use 0 as primary key. Let's check. Yeah, delete it. Let's change this primary key to 1. I mean, if we had done it programmatically, by default, the primary key would have been 1. Right? But since we are doing it through this interface, it it allows us to take 0 as primary key. It should not be done, right? User_01, and then the password is 1234. Okay, so now I have that user. All right. Now, if the user exists, and now if I make this request, let's see what happens. Okay, so it says user found, and you can see that the status is 200 over. All right. Let us now we know that what happens if the user does not exist. Let's see if the password is incorrect. Right? If the password does not match, and we send a request. What does it say? Again, bad request and invalid password. Right. But as somebody of you mentioned that if the username matches and the password does not match, this means that the user is not authorized, right? He does not have the valid credentials to actually get into the application. This means ideally it should throw a 401 error, and that is what we are going to do now, right? So I'll close this application for now. Okay, close this application for now. Go to
Sir,
app.py. Yeah.
yeah, I have a doubt regarding this status code of 400 and 401. So this 400, I guess, is a broader category which include multiple type of bad requests. Maybe some argument is missing, or some kind of totally invalid data is provided, which is not you have. It was supposed to integer and we provided a string or something like that, incompatible type. So it's 400 broader category, whereas 401 is just related to that authentication part, the username, some kind of
Yeah,
authentication.
you can say that. You can say so. Basically, what happens? Not only 400, it is the series. So 4 something something, 2 something something, like that.
Mhm.
5 something something. So 4 something something talks about the user credentials. So one is bad request, second is unauthorized, then
Hmm.
which is 401. Then there is 403 forbidden, right?
Forbidden.
So that talks with that takes care of the role-based access control. As of now, there is only one user, one model. So we can only talk about authentication. So we'll go as far as 401. Okay, but later on you will also see that there is a role-based access control, and for that we need 403 also at times.
Hmm.
Okay, then
Yes.
there is 405, which actually talks about method not allowed, I think.
Method not allowed. Yes.
Right. So this is, it's not. There are categories that start with the first number of the status code,
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like
Yeah.
there multiple are there. So many are there, in fact, and we don't need to memorize all of them. Only
Hmm.
the ones that we very frequently see. There is also one called as 415, which tells you unprocessed entity. I mean, you're providing something, but that could not be processed by the server. Okay,
Hmm.
multiple things are there. You
Hmm.
can see that
Yes.
in the list of HTTP status codes and what they mean. So that will
Hmm.
give you the entire list.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So now the next thing that we are going to do is, what was I going to do? Yeah, I close this application and now I'm going to change this entire thing to two things. One is it will give me 401 if either the username or password does not match, and it will give me the same user found if the password matches. Okay, and obviously we are not doing this entire thing to simply say user found, right? We need to do the add-ons. We need to make sure that a proper, valid, and some crucial information is returned when the user successfully logs in. All right. So I'll make that change first, and then I will go to involving JWT. Okay. So at this point, you can just go ahead and go to login and do whatever you want, right? But JWT will help you to secure the endpoint. Okay. Now it is not the login that you're going to secure. Okay. Login endpoint or the login form or whatever application provides with login must be open to all, right? Otherwise, nobody will be able to log in itself to the application, right? So it is not the login that you protect. It is the other endpoints that follow after login, right? So for example, let's say if I log in as a user and if I correctly log in, what should happen? I should be able to redirect to my dashboard, right? Because let's say if I'm going to an application, I put in my credentials are matching, I should go to dashboard, right? So that dashboard is something that has to be protected, right? Because dashboard may have information which is either confidential to me or specific only to me, right? So I don't want anybody to just go ahead and have that dashboard endpoint available. Okay, so it is not the login that you protect. It is the other other endpoints that you protect that follow after logging in. Okay, so that is what we are going to see later. All right, now I'll change this first. Okay, so I'll just write. Or maybe I have a piece of code already written for that because I'm taking the code from the previous session itself. It's just that there is a single, model. Correct. So what did I do? Yeah, this is the condition. Okay, let's not worry about access token as of now. So instead, I hope this is clear to you. So what I'll do is I'll just comment this everything. Okay, so that the code remains with you because this is the code I'm going to share after the session. And we have this. All right. Now there are so many things that happened. Let us try to understand these things one by one. Okay. Firstly, the user is retrieved in the same way, right? The user is retrieved in the same way. Second thing is the condition itself is written in single one line. Okay, what is happening here? If not user, right? So this is the first condition we had written here, right? So this is the condition where you return incorrect username or password, right? And what is the other condition where you return incorrect username or password? Not user dot password is equals to user get. So the second condition that we had written. So what has happened here? I have clubbed this condition and this condition with an or, right? So if not user or not user dot password equals to this. Okay, let's not worry about RHS for now, but it just makes I mean just understand that at this point it is verifying password. Okay, what is this user cred and all? You don't have to worry. Okay, both of the condition we have clubbed into one, and we have given a generic message that which says incorrect username or password. Okay. Now what I was writing before, let's say something like this, return, and then I was returning a JSON with a key message equals to this. Okay, and then this JSON was followed by the status code. Okay. Now what is happening here? You have to write the JSON entirely. Then you have to write it in the correct proper JSON form, right? Or JSON serializable form. Okay. This JSONify method helps me do that. Okay. You can see it is as simple as writing the attribute and it's value. Okay. What it does is it internally converts it into an actual JSON and returns to, right? So either you write this or you write this. Both are same. Okay. This is JSONify will help you create a JSON and return as a response. Okay, so if let's say if I just don't do this, if I comment this and I uncomment this, it is one and the same. Oh, sorry, so already commented. Okay, it is one and the same thing. So what is happening here? If the user does not exist, or if the user exists but the password does not match, what it is going to return? It is going to return a generic message: incorrect username or password. All right, incorrect username or password. All right, and the second thing that it is going to return is this 401 now. Okay, because the idea of incorrect username or password itself means that you are not authorized. So instead of returning 400, we will return 401. And the idea of clubbing tells us that we are not bothered about whether the username was incorrect or whether the password was incorrect. If any one of them fails, you are unauthorized, right? Just give me a minute. Okay. Right. Now this JSONify method needs to, now has some meaning, right? So this JSONify also can be imported through Flask. So from Flask import, as of now, we are importing request JSONify and request JSONify and Flask. All right. Now, what is this user cred? Right? What is this user cred? Okay. Right. So what did we do? We retrieved internally. I mean, explicitly we imported username by writing request.json.get. Then we retrieved password specifically by writing request.json.get. Right. What if there are multiple attributes associated with a user? Obviously, there won't be many, but let's say there are multiple attributes. Okay. What you're going to do? We cannot keep on retrieve one by one, one by one. So what we'll do is we'll comment this, and instead we'll write user creds, okay, user cred equals to request dot get JSON. Okay, request dot get JSON. So I think so. What is going to happen once you write request dot get JSON? This user cred will have the entire request body, whatever we send from here, right? Sorry, under client. Whatever we send from here, the entire body, this entire body written in the form of JSON will be stored in user cred, right? And obviously, when it comes to the Python, it becomes a dictionary, right? So how do you access a dictionary? Like this, right? You refer to the dictionary and then give a square bracket and then the attribute of that dictionary. So let's say if I want to retrieve a username, how will I do? And write user cred, and then I'll put this into square brackets with string. All right. So this user cred, let me also write this in comment. This user cred will have this entire thing. This user cred will internally have this entire thing equals to this. Whatever you send from the front end or whatever you send from the Thunder client or Postman to the backend, that entire thing will be saved here. How does that happen? With the help of this get JSON. All right. So either of the approach is fine. In our case, there was only username password, so it is also easy to fetch them individually. What if multiple things are being sent? You use the user cred, right? So there are multiple ways of doing it. I'm just writing both of these so that you have both the approaches ready. All right. So once you have the user cred, you can get to the username by writing like this, referencing it. Same thing you can get to the passwords referencing. Now you understand this, right? User.password equals to user cred password, meaning from this object you are referring to password. Okay. So now my entire login endpoint becomes, it will first retrieve the entire request body, all right, entire request body. Then it will, with the help of that request body and specifically with the help of the username within the request body, it will try to fetch the user. Then it will find out two conditions. If the user does not exist or if the password does not match, it is going to return incorrect username or password. And in either case, it means that the user must not be authorized. That is the reason it will return 401. Okay. If any of these things do not happen, okay, if any of these things do not happen, then we will return this, right, user found. Okay, but it is not the user found that we have to write, it is the token that we have to generate. Now let us try to understand what is token and everything. Okay, so to be able to create the token, we must first understand what is this token and why do we need it, right? So what I'm going to do is first I'll import certain things for that. So from Flask JWT extended. So this is the package that you have to externally download. The way you have installed, installed and downloaded and installed SQL Alchemy, same thing. So you have to do pip install Flask JWT extended, right? So once that is installed, then you will import certain methods. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to import is, let me go to that place. Here, what do we need? You see one method here, yeah, create access token. This create access token is a method coming from JWT extended. Create access token. Okay, now what is this token basically? What is happening here in line number 33? Let us try to understand. Okay, so forget about what is this identity and everything. If this condition fails, this means the user is authenticated, right? The user name also is there, exists in the database, and the password also matches. Once you have both the things verified, this means the user is now an authenticated user. If the user is authenticated, it should generate token. Okay, so at this line number 33, a token is being generated. All right. And in line number 35, what is happening? The token is being returned as a JSON. All right. What should be the output of this? Or should be the output of this? It will be JSON, which will have key as access token. Okay. And the value will be actual token. Okay. So it starts with something EY and then it will have something token. All right. So it will be a random string created with the help of JWT. Okay. We'll see what that is. Okay. But what this JSONify does, very similar to this, right? Here. This JSONify message equals to incorrect message, it converts this into something like this. 401. Similarly, when I write JSONify access token equals to access token, what happens? This is the property name which comes on the LHS, and this is the actual token that is created here. Okay. For if you want to remove that confusion, you can write created. Sorry. We created access token, right? Created access token, and you can provide it here. Created access token. Sorry. All right, so the access token is going to be the key, and the actual token that was created will be stored here and returned as a response. And when will it be returned? Only when the user has properly authenticated itself, meaning both the things match. All right, because this condition fails, it means both the things, username and password, are matching with the database. All right, now let us see what this means. Okay, when I say create access token or created access token equals to this method and this identity, what do I mean by that? For that, what I'll do is I'll copy a piece of code and explain from there. So we have security. Okay, because there is nothing much to understand in depth. Okay. All right. So the very similar to how we created an SQL Alchemy object, we also have to create a JWT object. All right. So from Flask JWT extended, we also have to import JWT manager. Okay, we have to import JWT manager. Okay, and this JWT manager will help us to do certain things. What are those things? Okay, so first thing we do is we create a JWT manager object, very similar to how we create app object, right? So this basically should come here on the top like this. All right, and to link our JWT manager or JWT object with our app object, what do? We provide app here like this. Right, very similar to how we did with SQL Alchemy. I mean, all the plugins of Flask work in a similar fashion, right? So you create first the object of that plugin or the extension, and then you attach it with the application. Same goes with JWT. You create the JWT object, and then you attach it with the app object. All right. So this application now is now connected with JWT. What this JWT does? Okay. So this JWT basically provides two functions to me. Okay, two functions or two decorator functions, as we these are basically decorators. So what are callback functions in JavaScript, right? Decorators are very similar to that. So these are basically callback functions. What happens is we will not go into details of this because this is very simple. Most of the things happen internally. What exactly happens, I'm going to explain here. Right. So in line number 12 to 14. Okay, 12 to 14. What is happening? This function, user identity loader tells you with what you want to identify, right? I mean, how do you want to identify whether the user is correct or not? I want to identify with username, right? That is what is mentioned here. So this decorator function tells you with what attribute of the user model you want to identify the user when somebody logs in. Okay, what have we done? We have done user. Okay. All right. The second function, decorator function tells you how do you want to retrieve that data from the database. See what is happening here. User.query.filter by. Okay. username equals to identity. So this identity, here I'm mentioning user.username, right? This identity is fed here. How is it fed? It is fed internally. Flask JWT takes care of it. I don't have to really worry about how these things are working. All right. So you just need to, answer these two questions. With what identity, what should be my identity to load the user? In our case, it is going to be username. And how do I load the user from database? Using this filter query. All right. So internally, these two methods what will they do? They will take care of creating the token. Okay. Now this token is not randomly created. This token is created based on the user information and vice versa. Okay. What do I mean by that? Let's say a token is created. I have a token here. Let's say I have a token. Okay. So user logged in. Okay. Let us try to understand the process. User logs in. Okay. Once the user successfully logs in, the token is created. Okay. Token created. Now this token is created with the help of user information. Okay, it is created with the help of user information. This means this token internally stores the entire user information. If that is true, can I retrieve user from the token? Can I retrieve user information from the token? Yes. All right. So token is created when the successful login happens. And when the token actually is created, it stores the user information in an encrypted manner. And JWT allows us to retrieve that information from the token. Okay, are we clear with this statement? Any doubt in this part? Till this point, any doubt? Am I connected?
So one doubt I had was, so we are passing user as an object, right? In identity is equal to user, create access token. But it is this identity loader or something is the one that identifies out of that object, it identifies one of the column, whatever attribute which is to be identified with, right?
Yeah. So what happens basically is, okay, I'll tell you. So what happens basically is, okay, where is that function? Yeah. So here you are providing identity. Okay. So here you are providing identity, meaning when this function, when these two functions together, come into picture, meaning when these two functions are triggered, one tells you how do you want to retrieve the information, right? With what attribute you want to retrieve the information. And second one, and obviously this user.username, that actual value becomes the identity. Okay. And here internally, it will, take care of whether you are providing object or not. Right. So that is the reason exactly. Yeah, here. When I create access token, I provide the user object only. Okay. So when I provide user object as an identity, what happens? Internally, this is triggered. Identity loader. So from the user object, see, I'm fetching object here. I'm providing object here. This object goes to this part. All right. From this object, it returns user.username, which then internally goes to this part. So this user.username is what I want to fetch the user object. Okay. I mean, see, things happen internally here. So I may not be, explain the step-by-step process what happens, but this is what you have to understand, that whenever okay, let me also support with what I said, right? I said token is created, and what am I saying? With the help of user information. What do I mean, or how am I saying this? Because of this method. You can see, I'm saying create access token and take identity as user, right? So internally, what Flask JWT does, it retrieves the user object. From the user object, it takes one of its attribute as identity, which is in our case username, and that identity is again fetched into the second lookup loader function, okay, which retrieves the entire user object, the entire user information with all its attribute and everything, and encrypts it into a token and then stores it here. Okay, returns with the help of this function. So basically what is happening when you trigger this function, these two functions are internally triggered. Okay, and the token is a return. The return of this function is basically a token, an encrypted string, and that encrypted string stores the information of the user, the entire user model. So you can retrieve the ID of the user, password of the user, username of the user, everything. Okay. At this point, I can only explain it verbally. I cannot get into, what exactly happened within this function.
Sir,
Okay.
one small doubt. Uh, this JWT data and underscore JWT data, you are not passing it, right?
One second. Yeah. These are the internal functionalities. I'm not passing.
Okay.
Okay. So internally, there is something called as okay. I'm forgetting this name. What is this sub? This sub stands for. Okay. So there is something that triggers this method and then does the work for me. Right. So I am just telling you the superficial thing. Internally, what exactly happens? We have to get into the code and check. All right. But you need to understand at this point to create access token. I'm triggering certain functionalities internally, and such that the user is taken as identity. And what is the end result? I get a token. Okay. That is an encrypted form of user object, user information. Okay. So whatever is happening is actually supporting this, or whatever I'm telling you is actually is our objective, right? So what we want to do, we have to first log in with the correct credentials. Okay. See, I don't want to create a token. Token can be created anywhere, right? See, it is the condition that decides where the token is creating, right? I could have used this method anywhere, right? Within any of the conditions, right? But that does not make any sense. Because if it is used in any other condition, my credentials are not matched. Okay. Create access token does not really worry about whether the username was correct or not, whether the password was correct or not. It is our responsibility to make sure that within the code we mentioned, within the code we use a create access token only at that place where we know that the user credentials are matching or are verified. Okay, this is the place where it verifies because it is right after the condition. If the condition is false, this means both username and password match. And only then I want to create that token. Okay. Okay, so now this is clear. Now, once the token is created and the token also has user information entirely, the entire user object, it is possible for us to retrieve user information. Okay, now I'm continuously emphasizing on this. It is possible to retrieve user information. Possible to retrieve user information. Where and how will I retrieve that information? Okay, that is something we'll see next. Okay. So with that, let's see if this code is now working. Okay, let's see if this code is working. Does it really say user found, or it gives me an actual token? Okay, let's see. Okay, one more thing. Okay, obviously this code will throw an issue unless I resolve that. Okay, I said the token is created with the help of user information, right? But the user information is a JSON. Right? It is a JSON. It has password, it has username, it might have some other complete information, all those things. This is user information. I need to encrypt this user information, right? I need to encrypt this user information. So for the encryption, I need to have something called as JWT secret key. All right. So this secret key is something that helps me encrypt user information. Okay. The harder the secret key is, or the stronger the secret key is, the stronger is the encryption. All right. That secret key is provided through configuration. Okay. So I'll do one more thing here. Just copy the statement here and change the value. So this, this attribute is going to be JWT secret key. All right. And what is going to be the value? It should be as strong as possible, as complicated as possible. But for the demonstration, I'll write my JWT secret key. All right. JWT, my JWT secret key. Right. So it has to be a string. Okay. It should be a 32-bit, 64-bit long, digit alphabet long string, and with a very complicated sequence of alphabets, not like, something that makes sense. All right. So it has to be as strong as possible so that the encryption becomes as strong as possible. Okay. This is something that we have, or similar to this, we have seen in Flask login also, right? There used to be app.config secret key. Okay, but this is specific to JWT. Therefore, the configuration itself says JWT secret. Okay, so this JWT secret key helps me to encrypt the user information in the form of a token. All right, so these are the requirements we have. Okay, let us save and try and try and see if it runs.
Sir, by user information, you mean the user object, the SQL
Yes,
user
user
object?
information, every information with the user ID, username, password, everything. Okay,
So
so I have it.
not the
This
user cred array, right, sir?
no, not the user cred. I was just referring to this information, not the user cred. Definitely. The user object,
Okay.
yes, the one that you retrieve from the database after verifying. Okay. All right. So now I have this. Let me go to where it was? Yeah. Yeah. Now with everything done, let us also make it post, because obviously you will be sending credential with the post method. So it's always better to make a post request. Sorry. For that we'll go to app.py, and in our login route, let us make it post. Something that works with post method also. Right? And obviously I don't want it to work with get, so I'll explicitly mention only post method, not get and post. Okay, only post. Save this. Okay, once this is saved, we'll again go to this new request. Everything remains same. The only thing that changes is this post method. We are going to make a request to the same login. The body remains same. Okay, JSON. And I think we have to, okay, let us first try with the incorrect credentials. So it is 1 2 3 4 5, and let's say user 2. I know user 2 does not exist, right? So what it should return? 401. Right? So it returns 401, and it returns incorrect username or password. Okay. Let us try with correct username but incorrect password. Okay, again it returns the same, right? But you can see that the message is same. What is the point of all this? The message is same, which means I'm not really bothered whether the username was incorrect or password was incorrect. If any of one of the important credentials does not match, I will say that the user is unauthorized. Okay, that is the reason. For either case, I'm returning 401. Okay, but now let us try with the correct credentials. Let us see what it sends. Okay, now you see that it sends the token. Okay, this is a very long string with encrypted user information. Just copy and save it to the app.py. Okay, so you can see that it is a long string that starts with EY. Right? There is a reason when I was giving the example also it starts with EY. No particular reason for that. Okay, maybe this is the way JWT tokens work. Okay, so this is the token. Now once I have token, I can very safely say that the user credentials were correctly given and the user login is successful. Okay, are we clear till this point? Does anybody have any doubt? What is the use of secret key, right? What is this create access token? What are these two methods as of now? Obviously in YY and all, they will not go into details on this. Definitely not. Okay. But you need to understand that
Sir,
these two
where do
methods.
we, sir, where did we use this JWT secret key? Did we use that anywhere in the roots?
No, not in the roots, but this date, that's what I said, right? You gave right credentials. And I'm saying the token that you're getting is a encrypted token. How is it encrypted? With the help of secret key. So it is the secret key that helps you encrypt the user information into a token, right? See, obviously what is going to happen later on, you will be storing this token into either your cookies or into your local storage somewhere. Okay. If this information directly had user information, it would be very easy for the client to get user information from the cookies, right? That is the reason it is important to encrypt it. And this encryption is brought about by secret key. So secret key helps in encryption.
Understood,
Did
sir.
you get this?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Right?
sir.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, if you recall Flask login, if you have watched that session or if you have used Flask login somewhere in the past, you'll see that there was secret key. What did that secret key do? Once you have the user information retrieved, it was not retrieved, bare. It was not retrieved as open-ended user information. It was retrieved as a, cookies into the session that was encrypted, right? And what was bringing about that encryption? The secret. There it was simply secret key. Here it is JWT secret key because they wanted to be specific type developers. So we are not using it. It is internally being used by the application to create the token. Okay, so where exactly is this create access token? This method internally uses secret key to encrypt your user credentials. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are we clear till this point? Anybody? Any doubt? So if this is clear, then we'll move on to the next important part, that is protecting an endpoint, right? So first we are protecting an endpoint, and second thing I will again emphasize on this statement, right? Okay, so user login successful. If the successful user login happens, token is created. This token is created with the help of user information, and obviously this token is encrypted. Now, if this token is encrypted and I have access to the token, can I retrieve user information? This is the second step, and this helps you to not only protect your route, but also retrieve user information from a protected route. Okay, let me explain what I'm trying to say. Okay, so the first part of this session was to be able to create a JWT token, right? But now the second part is how do you use this token and how do you protect the endpoint? Okay, so that is going to be the second part. Okay, now to be able to understand the second part, you must be very clear with whatever happened so far, right? If there is any doubt, let me know. Okay, so this endpoint at this point, this endpoint that we have created was open endpoint. This is not the protected endpoint because in any application, you will not be protecting a login endpoint. You will be protecting the endpoints that follow. All right, now let's say once the login is successful, let me just measure this. Once the login is successful, what should happen? The user should be redirected to the user dashboard, right? So user should be redirected to the user dashboard. So that we are going to do. Snap @app.route. Okay, @app.route. The next thing that I want to go is to the dashboard. This is the dashboard. Define user POARD, user dashboard. Okay, now this user dashboard will have a lot of information, right? So it will retrieve the entire user model, and the entire user model will be retrieved. All the information associated with the user will be retrieved. Okay, assuming that this is a very large scale application with multiple models, let's say user, products, list, students, courses, everything. Okay, so you will be interested, or the user, whoever is using this application, will be interested to fetch all that information which is relevant to that particular user. Okay, in our case, we do not have multiple models, but it would be great if we could retrieve user information from this particular point itself, right? So this is what we are trying to do. All right. Now the first thing that we're going to do is protect this route. Okay, for example, if I just write this return username, return username, user underscore 01. I'm hard coding it for now. We will make it to uh, proper information later, but I'm as of now just hard coding just to tell you that we can access this information or not. Password 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, and let me also add message. It says user test successful. All right, at this point, this endpoint is not protected, right? This endpoint is not protected. This means if I just save, okay, if I just save and randomly if I go to any front end, right? If random any particular user who simply is not logged in or does not have right credentials to this application simply goes to this application and just make a request, right? What request I'm going to make? HTTP. That is also there. Dashboard. Okay, it makes a get request to this dashboard. What do I get? See, I get the entire user information directly without even logging in. Okay, assume that this process did not happen. Directly somebody just came, opened the URL tab, went to this dashboard, and you can see that okay, this is completely open, right? Here so much we have done. app.py. So much we have done at the top, created the login endpoint, created the token, all those things we have done. But somebody just got to know, okay, this dashboard endpoint exists. Went to the URL tab, put the dashboard. Okay, well, the entire information is out here. This is an unprotected route, right? This route is not protected, right? How do we protect it, right? So this is the first objective of this entire session, to protect an endpoint, right? So that is what we're going to do. We'll go to app.py, all right, and very similar to how we used to do with Flask login and everything, we will decorate it with some information, decorate it with something, right? So for example, if you have, if you may have used Flask login, what did we write? Login required, right? In our case, we are working on a JWT. So what are we going to write? JWT. I don't know why I write J. JWT required. JWT required. All right. So what happens now? This route becomes protected. What does that mean? If somebody wants to go to this endpoint, should have token, right? They should have token, or they should provide correct token. Not only any just token, they should provide correct token. All right. And obviously, this is underlined with yellow line. This means we need to first define it. How do we define it? You don't really need to define. It can be directly imported from JWT required. All right, these things are provided by Flask JWT extended. So what is this decorator doing now? Okay, what is this decorator doing now? This decorator will help me protect this route. Now let's see if I try to go and hit this endpoint. What is happening? Okay, it says functional. Okay, something issue with. This is not what I was expecting. One missing positional function. JWT required.
Sir, I think JWT required decorator should be on top of the route decorator.
JWT required top on the to the endpoint, is it? What is it?
I mean, like we used to use login required before the route.
Here?
Here I think so.
No. This is right. Login required also used to use after the route only.
After this one, okay.
Okay, so this is fine. Okay. So it requires a positional argument. It is a function. All right. I was missing parenthesis. Okay, so this parenthesis was missing. Now let us see. Oh, sorry. We'll go to this new request again and make this request. What does it say? 401 authorize. The endpoint that was, very readily giving the information now tells me that you are not unauthorized. Okay, this means it will require that token to be provided along with the request. What is happening here? I'm making a request. I can provide body and everything. In a similar fashion, I will also have to provide a correct token. Okay, only then I will be able to retrieve this information. Okay, how will I provide that token? Okay, how will I provide that token? You see this auth here. Okay, so there are two ways basically. I'll tell you both the ways. One is you just go to this auth, all right, select this bearer, okay, and the entire token that you got from this proper login, you provided there. Okay, so you enter the entire token here. All right, so token prefix is bearer, and then you provide this. Now let me just make a request. Now you see that it is giving me the information. This means, what do I mean by that? If success, this endpoint will be fetched only if you have a token. And when will you have token? Only if you are successfully logged in. This means now this bypass is not possible. I will have to go to the login process, make sure that my credentials are correct. If my credentials are correct, I will bypass this if condition. Then I will go to this create access token. I will retrieve the token. That token I'll use to access this endpoint. If I do not have token, it will give me 401. Okay. Now I told you there are two methods, right? One is this. You just select auth and bearer here. The second way of doing that is using headers. Okay. So let me just remove this. Okay. Just go to headers, and here you can write. You can use this key called authorization. Authorization. All right. And the value will be token. Okay. Now you remember when I was using this auth, I mentioned bearer as prefix, right? So here when I give header, I have to provide bearer as bearer space and then token. Okay, this is more generic way because you are actually mentioning what should be the headers of my request. All right. When you do this, the Thunder client internally does that for you. But when you do headers, you'll have to explicitly mention that, okay, these are my headers and these are the values. Okay, let us see. Okay, you still get 200. Okay. All right. But there is a problem with this. Can you tell me what is the problem at this point? Everything is working fine. My route is now protected. My token is provided correctly. I'm getting the right information, but still there is a problem. What is the problem? Anybody? Okay, I'll tell you the problem. Okay, let's go to this database. Okay, I'll add another user. Okay, to user underscore 02, password 54321. Okay, now let me add this add this user. Okay, my user is added. Can I generate a token for this user? I can. Let us go to new request. All right, and then here instead of instead of providing user one and password of user one, I'll provide user two and password of user two. 54321. All right. If I make a send, what is going to happen? I get an access token. Now this access token will have is generated because of correct credentials of user two. Okay. Let us copy it here and go to this dashboard. Okay. This dashboard endpoint, and let us
I
provide this
got
token
the
here.
problem. I think any
Got the
user who
problem?
is logged in, he will be able to get the dashboard of any other user. You're probably trying to
Okay. All right. All
demonstrate.
right. Authorization value bearer. Okay, bearer. And then if I do send, what are you expecting? User fetch successfully, 54321, user 2, or what? What are you expecting as an answer? I mean, as a response.
User one only, sir.
User 1 only. Why is that? I've
That's
logged in
hard
with the
coded.
user 2 credentials.
Uh,
Yeah, I've logged in with user credentials, provided token of second user, but still I'm getting the same information. Why is that? Because my data is hard coded. Okay, my endpoint and everything is working fine, but it is important what I return, right? What I return as a response. Okay, in my case, I'm returning a hard-coded response. Does not matter who the user is, how well he or she has logged in. They will never get their own data, right? Now we'll come to our third thing. Can I retrieve user information from the token, right? So I cannot keep on writing this user 2 and 54321 or something else, right? The information that is returned should be specific to the user who has logged in, not anybody else, right? So if it is that case, the user who has logged in, that user information should come from somewhere, right? And where is that user information going to come? From the token. Okay, that user information is going to come from the token. All right, now how do I fetch that user information from the token? All right. Okay, by the way, is the problem clear to everyone? It is not clear, just unmute and question because I'm not able to see your raise hands.
So if we use current user, then we can access the
That is the
information,
solution.
right?
That is the solution. That's okay. That is what we are going to discuss now. Because the pattern is similar to what we have done in Flask Security 2, what we have done in Flask Login, right? The same thing. But the issue with hard-coded text is this, right? You should be able to. I mean, the question is you should be able to retrieve that user information is logged in. And obviously, you would not do something like this. I mean, there is one option, right? I provide user ID like this. This is one option. Get the user ID from here, put it here, and then fetch it using user.query.user ID. I can do that. But what does that do? That exposes the user ID to open because this becomes a part of endpoint. Right? When I do /user ID, it becomes an endpoint and it exposes the user ID. Right? I will be able to tell, okay, user with user ID 1 or 10 or 100 exists in the database. I don't even want to do that. Right? So we need to retrieve user information internally. Okay. And how is that happening? With the help of token. So what does token do? Okay. To be able to get into this endpoint, you're definitely providing token. This means the token is somewhere inside. I mean, the access to token is there within this within the endpoint. I hope you all agree to this. Okay, when you want to go to this endpoint, you provide the token. This means the access to the token is there within this endpoint. If the access of token is there, this means the access to user information is there. We just need to know how to retrieve. Okay, and that retrieval will be done by somebody mentioned, right? Current user. Current user. Okay, so this current user is an object which is called as a proxy object of the user. It is not the actual user object. What is the actual user object? The one which is coming from the database. Where exactly? Here. This is the actual user object because it is coming from the database. Okay, the token does not store the actual user object. It stores the copy of it. You can call it a copy of it or a proxy of the user. All right, not the actual user, proxy of the user, and that will be stored or accessed by current user. Okay, again, current user is underlined in yellow. This means we need to import it. Current user. Now, what is this current user? This current user is the exact copy of user. This means if a user object has, if a user object is something like this, user equals to username colon user underscore two, sorry, underscore, and password is 54321. This is the user object. What happens? The current user also stores this. The current user will store the exact same information, an exact copy of the user object with all its attribute, right? This means if the user is connected to some other model, it will store that also. So you should be able to access, or you will be able to access the every attribute of the user. Okay, with the help of this, you will be able to access every attribute of the user. This means, let's see if I want to access a password of the user, what can I write? User.password. Similarly, I can also write current user.password. All right, and obviously this will be accessible within the endpoints only because the token is provided to the endpoints. Token is not readily available everywhere. It is only available within the definition of endpoints. So you can use this current user everywhere, but within the definition of endpoints. Okay. So what will I do? What will I do now? Instead of hard coding this as user01, I'll write current user dot username. Okay, same attribute it will have. Instead of hard coding the password here, I'll write current user dot password. And obviously user fetch successfully will still remain as is. All right, now let me save this and try to get the data. Okay, we'll go to this new request and now let me make the same request. Do you get this? Now you get user 2 54321. Okay, let us try with user 1 now. Okay, so for user 1, what I'll do, I'll write user 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you send this, you get a new token. This new token is specific to user 1. So when you copy this token and put to the headers of this information, I mean this endpoint, obviously with bearer and everything, and then you send, what do you expect? You expect information of user 1. That is how we not only protect an endpoint, but we ensure that only the logged in user information is fetched, not anybody else's. Okay, so this current user, sorry, app.py. This current user helps me access the token. Okay, all right, and this current user will have existence only when it is a protected, right? A protected route will only have access to current user within its definition. Okay, I cannot use current user here somewhere outside. User equals to current user. This is not allowed. You cannot use this because current user will be only accessible within the definition of protected routes.
Sir, what will happen if we use? Will it say out of active request, something
Yeah,
like
it
that?
will give you error. It will tell you that the current user does not have any existence, something like that.
Hmm. Sir, can you just try one thing? Printing the dir of current user variable. Just a small step.
dir meaning I did not get.
Dir is a function in Python that gives the information about the object.
Okay, can you type it in chat?
Yeah, just dir and inside parenthesis the variable name.
Okay, second.
Small, small lowercase dir.
Okay, I'll have to print it.
Yeah, print.
dir current. This is what you're saying.
Yeah, dir of current user.
This is fine, right? Line number 52.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's make the request. Send. So you have this. Okay, you get a very big object. This is
Yeah,
what you
sir.
get.
Yes, sir. Just yeah. Yes. So we got the ID, password, then username. Okay. So these variables are available.
Everything you will get. Right. So let's say if the user object has some other attribute like role, you will be able to see role, right? I mean, it is
Yes.
evident here itself, right? You got the user password and username. The only other thing that is remaining is ID. So we can bring that also, right? Just one line we need to add.
Hmm.
Sorry, not here. User underscore ID colon current user dot ID. This is the thing that we need. If I go to the new request and make a send, we will have the ID also.
Sir, this current user is an array, right, sir?
Current user is an object. As I said, it is a proxy, right? So, okay, how can you say it is an object? I'll show you. Here you are using dot
An
notation, right?
SQL object.
SQL
So can you
object,
just
no, a
print the
Python
current
object.
user instead of the dir of current user?
It is a
Yes.
this one only, right? See, it is an object, Python object.
No, it's SQL Alchemy. I guess that's the default representation of the SQL Alchemy object.
Yes, but yeah, that's what it is storing, right? I mean, you are getting reference to the user object. That's how
Hmm.
you are able to print current user. It means you are actually printing the user itself who is logged in, right? And this is basically, yes, SQL Alchemy object, but written in a Python, right? You can, I mean, any Python object is also written in the same way, right? And
Understood. Got
obviously, I
it,
mean,
sir.
even by not printing, you can see that you are using dot notations for a object, right? I mean, for a variable using dot notations means you're accessing its attributes. This means it has to be an object. Okay, fine. This is fine.
Okay, sir.
All right. So basically, this is what we were trying to do, right? So we created an application which was very simple in sense that it was allowing a user to log in with the credentials, and then we created an endpoint. Now the objective was to protect the endpoint and be able to retrieve user information within the endpoint, right? So that we did with the help of SQL Alchemy. That we did with the help of JWT, Flash JWT extended, where very similar to how we create a SQL Alchemy DB object, we created a JWT object. This JWT object in turn provided us with two decorator functions. The one that allows you to retrieve the or load the identity, and the other tells you, how do you use this identity to load the user information. Okay, these two functions internally help you to create the token along with the secret key, right? So once the credentials and everything match, the two functions get triggered. They help you to create token, which is nothing but an encrypted form of user information, right? Now, if this token is encrypted, obviously you will not be able to fetch its information from the cookies wherever it is stored, right? But you will be able to fetch its information or the information it's storing from within the decorated endpoint. How do we do that? With the help of current user. And how do we protect an endpoint? We have to provide just a decorator which says JWT required with parentheses. All right. So what is happening here? We are not only safeguarding our endpoint. So wherever, so for example, if I just do another endpoint, something like @app.route, okay, then /profile, right? This is also a personalized kind of endpoint. So if you want to create this endpoint, and obviously this endpoint must be protected to make sure that only the user who's logged in is able to access their own profile, right? So this has to be decorated with the decorator called JWT required. Okay, and then finally, then you write whatever definition you want. Okay, so that's how these things work. That's how JWT token or JWT extended works with securing your application. All right, is this clear till this point?
Yes.
All right, so basically that is what I wanted to cover today. We are done with the content.
Sir, I have a small doubt.
Go ahead.
Sir, how do we pass this token using Vue?
We pass this token using Vue type. So for example, you are at the front end, right? So assuming that this is a JS file, okay, script dot JS. All right, assuming that this is a script.js, what will you do? You will either write a fetch call, you will either make a fetch call or you'll make an Axios call. Okay, we have fetch in our syllabus, so I'll do a fetch. Okay, so what we do is we'll make a fetch call, fetch. All right, and here we'll provide the URL http://127.0.0.1 /login. Okay, this is the URL. All right, then we have headers. Okay, so the headers are very important. Firstly, okay, why headers are important? Because you can see the headers are provided like this, right? So within the headers, you will provide two things: content type. Sorry, yeah, that's fine. Content type. Okay, what is the content type in when you're doing a fetch call? Application JSON. Application/JSON. This is the first thing, and second thing, second header is going to be authorization. You remember when I made this request, I provide authorization as the header. So that header will come here, authorization. All right. And what is going to be the value? Bearer space the token. I mean, whatever that digit we got, right? So many, I mean, the string, whatever we got, that will come here. It is going to be part of string. Okay. So you do a fetch call like this. All right. And then later on, you have these are the headers, and then you have body. Right, I'm forgetting the syntax, but in the body, what do you provide? The other thing that we are going to provide is method. Okay, because in fetch call, it is important to provide what method we are going to use. Method equals to post. All right, and then finally body, which is provided like this. You will be using this API called JSON API dot stringify, and within the parenthesis, you will provide the entire user object. What is going to be the user object? Username. What was the name? A user underscore 01 provided by followed by password colon 1234 like this. So this is going to be the entire fetch call. All right. Now once this fetch call is done, you will write a dot then. Okay. Dot then the response that you got will be converted to JSON. Sorry, response. This will be an arrow function. You are retrieving a response, and then you finally return a response dot JSON. Okay, and that's not all. The response dot JSON by itself returns a promise. So you again, I will have to use a then, and then you will write body, something like whatever you want. Let's say user body equals to a response dot user, because whatever you are retrieving here, will be returned as promise. This promise has to be resolved again, and you can use it something like this. Okay, so I have written this incorrectly. User body dot body. You'll have to check what it provides, right? You'll have to check first what it provides, and this can be either logged on console.log user body dot body. So I'm not actually sure of what do you get as an attribute here, but whichever attribute you get, you will be getting the entire. I mean, the entire user will be stored like this. Okay, so this you should find out. I'm writing it in angle brackets. Okay. So you see that the fetch call will have two thens. The first then will return the response, whatever fetch call, whenever you make a fetch call, it returns a response. Okay, and then it returns a response in the form of a promise, which has to be resolved. When you resolve it using response.json, it again returns a promise. That is the reason you need another then. So these two thens will finally retrieve you the value. So this is happening from the front end. Now, what is this fetch call? What this fetch call will be a part of? This fetch call will be a part of methods. Within the view, you will be having methods, right? So methods, you will be having, let's say, load user. Load user is your method. Function. And you're going to make the entire fetch call like this here. Okay, just verify the syntax with the fetch. I mean, the documentation of fetch. I might be, slippery here or there, but this is how you do it, right? So in the view, you have methods. In the view options object, you have methods. This method, obviously, what are you doing with the help of this token? You're trying to load, okay, or you're trying to log in, or let's say not load user, login user, login user. Okay, so login user. So what is this login user is going to be? It is going to be a function which makes a fetch call to this endpoint with these headers, with this authorization, with this. Okay, and obviously when you are loading, sorry, just logging in, you don't have to provide this authorization. It is token is not required for login. Let's say the other method has load user. The other method is a load user method. Load user method. Okay, so this load user method is going to be the same thing, but this time this will have token function. This, then you make a fetch call. Now this time you make a fetch call to http://127.0.0.1 : oh, I did not mention the port here, :5000. Okay. Here also you mentioned the port 5000 / dashboard. Okay, for the dashboard you will be providing everything else. You don't need to provide the body. Right? You don't need to provide body for the dashboard. Okay, fetch. Then we have headers, content type, token, and method. Either you provide or you do not provide. Does not matter because it is going to be get. That's all. Right. So you try to understand this. What is happening? Oh, and both obviously both the dot thens. Paste. Okay, so response of the first fetch call. I mean, whenever you trigger this login user function, the response you will see incorrect password provided, whatever we were getting here, right? Incorrect password provided, 401 or token. The response of first fetch call will be this. Will be one of the token or the incorrect password or username. All right, the response of second function, which is the load user, this is going to be the actual user data, whatever we are returning here. Sorry, whatever we are returning here. This is what you're going to get. Are you getting what I'm trying to say here? All right. Now, when you are doing a login call, as I said, login is not a protected one. So you don't need to provide, okay, let me just remove it completely. You don't need to provide token when you're logging in. But when you are accessing a protected route, you need to explicitly provide token. This is how you provide token. Right? And method also have to be provided explicitly. Okay. Now I
Sir,
might.
sir, I have a doubt again, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, this token will be created in the back end on the server, right, sir? But here we are using it in a script, in a Vue script, which will be on our browser. So at least once our token will be sent to the client, right, sir? To be saved in
Right.
cookies.
Yeah, obviously. So you see here instead of logging in what can you do? Okay, what is going to be the output of this method? Either you get incorrect password or incorrect username, or you get the token, right? So here you can do something like this: local storage dot set item.
So the login we have defined just returns the token.
Yeah. So it returns a token, right? So that whatever token it will be returning, that we are storing in the this thing token colon. So I want to store it with the key token, and the value is going to be user body dot token, whatever it is, because I don't know what it returns exactly, right? I'm not remembering this. I mean, I don't recall exactly what is the attribute. Assuming that it returns something like this, access token, or directly you won't get definitely. It will be like, let's say, body dot access token. Okay, or what should I write? Let's say, assuming that it is a response. Okay, so you will get something which will have an attribute response, which will in turn have access token. So what is going to happen? The moment login happens, this token will be stored to local storage. And how do you provide it here? You will be retrieving it from here like this. So instead of bearer and this thing hard coded, you will use backticks like this. So you will get local storage. Generally, local storage is used to store token. Local storage, sorry, dot get item token. This is what you have stored there, right? And you will end this with backtick like this. So what is going to happen? With this call, with the login user call, the token actually got stored into the local storage, and with the load user call, the token is retrieved from the local storage with the bearer capital B, with the bearer prefix, and then added as to authorization, right? So I mean, the response that was retrieved by the response that was sent by the first API call is brought in the view and stored in the local storage. Okay, and the information that is stored in the local storage is then used by other endpoints to actually provide it. Okay, you see here I've used things manually, right? I copied from here and pasted here. So this process of copying and pasting is happening through local storage. Okay, here it loads and here it is used. Now I hope you understand why it is encrypted, because if it is coming to the front end, and if it comes bare handed, right, without any encryption, the user information can directly be seen from the token or cookies itself, right? That is the reason the token is encrypted, because at some point it will go to front end for some reason. You get this?
Yes, sir. This user body dot response. I'm a little hazy on this. What is response?
That you have
Like,
to check. Just check this, what it gives you, then you will do. So see, what the thing is, what you can do is either you use fetch or you can use async await also. When you use async await, you can write multiple conditions. If response not okay, then you do this. If the response is not okay, then you simply return. Okay. Maybe I'll add a piece of code after the session and you can then refer to it. Because I
okay,
think
okay,
I've
sir.
covered
Understood,
this.
sir.
I've covered this in one of the sessions, not this term, but last time when I took the fetch, I think I covered there. Okay, so I'll add a piece of code that makes this fetch call. Okay, so we have the backend ready. Okay, we'll use the same backend. I'll write a simple view application that has a front end and then uses this backend to load the information. Will that be fine?
Perfect, sir.
Okay, so I'll share that, and if you can maybe go through it. If it is not clear, then I will explain it in the next session. Because next session probably I'll be taking on the Vue CLI. So maybe Vue CLI we can use the front end to actually get information from this packet. Yeah, Himanshu, go ahead.
Sir, so I have a little doubt about TCP, like the first time handshake. So, like, if someone tries to spoof the network, and like we say that it is protected by a XOR key, but like if the attacker spoof it on the first go, then doesn't it have the XOR key also?
No, because see, let us go to app. Here you can see that we are hard coding this secret key, right? There are two things. One is the secret key will be not as simple as this. Okay, it is going to be a 64-bit,
Okay.
32-bit long secret key. Firstly, secondly, this is an important security information, right? So you will never store it like this in the app in the backend. You will be storing it as an environment variable. So that secret key will never be visible itself to the the person who's trying to fetch this. Even if they have XOR key, they do not have the secret key.
But this, like, how the browser will. Okay, so you are hosting your application on your server, and I am accessing it on my machine.
Okay.
So when I make a request to your machine for the first time, then you give back me that secret key, right?
Hmm.
So if someone is monitoring my network, it will also get that key. Is it?
Yes, but see, I mean, internally it also has expiries. Okay. So, for example, if the secret key, even if you try this after some time, if you set an expiry, if you try the same token after some time, it will not let you log in. Right. So even if they have one key logged in from one system, it will not last for very long.
Okay.
Okay. So there are multiple layers of security that happens. We have just discussed one of it. Right. So there are expiries. Then when I mentioned, right, the secret keys are not directly mentioned within the code. It has to be provided as an environment variable. So when I host it, nobody will ever have access to secret key, right?
But that is on your server. Like, I'm thinking about how network itself is protected.
For the network protection, we have other things, right? So for example, there is HTTPS, right? So currently all our calls are happening on
TCP
HTTP,
based. Hmm.
right? That is one
Sorry.
thing. Then there are firewalls, right? Then there are, I mean, the server that we are running on also have its own firewalls. It's not directly that we are accessing the the website directly. There are firewalls. There are, I mean, I'm not remembering what exactly we call them, but there are firewalls. I mean, you may have read in one of the screencasts where the professor was explaining about the GeoNicon server, right? So what it does, it always keeps a copy of the application and the entire data, so that whenever there is a request happens, it is going through multiple channels of security and only then going to the actual server. Okay, so we are just discussing one aspect of it. There are multiple, aspects and parameters to secure the application. Some of the things happen from the way our application or from the level of security we are maintaining in the application, and so certain things are common that happens from from the place where the application itself is hosted, right? So
Hmm.
multiple things are there.
Like, route actually is not from NAT to itself. When we were covering MAD one, this
Mhm.
was, I guess, in week 9. There was a security topic where
Mhm.
Nitin sir mentioned about that secure socket layer of HTTPS.
Mhm.
That made me curious about this, like how the first time we are securing it. Okay, the
Okay.
after
All right,
the
all right. But
operation.
this is not what this is not that will answer your query, right? Right? Because that is that is protection of network. Here we are protecting endpoints, right?
Yes.
So these are two different things. Right? We
Yes.
are protecting what is there on the server, residing on the server. But what you are trying to protect is there is a network, there is a connection happened between the server and client. You are trying to protect the network. I mean, you're asking about how the protection of network happens as such,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
HTTPS
Yes.
is one of the solutions, and then there are multiple things on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Did somebody else raise hand? You're done, Himanshu, right?
Yes.
Asking
Yes. Yes.
anything? Okay. Did anybody else raise hand? Where can I find today's code? Yes. So this code will be added to supplementary contents under week 8 section. Okay. So I'll create a folder called week 8 source code, and you will be able to find it in supplementary content. All right. I hope it was clear. Obviously, you'll have to, whatever sessions we take will not be clear in one go. You'll have to go through it, watch this video again, then try it on your own, come across some errors, try to clear them. Only then it will be clear, right? So try to do that, and probably in the next session we'll discuss if you have any queries. Okay. And in the next session, probably on Saturday, we will cover the Vue CLI. Okay. So I'll try to explain how we will, trigger or call these endpoints from the front end. Okay. So that part also gets covered.
Sir, one small thing.
Hmm.
So here in Mad2, we are dealing with this client-side rendering website. Uh,
Hmm.
so when we can call something as a client-side or server-side, so if you have to give one definition, then what it will be?
One definition for a client side rendering is server side rendering, is it?
Yeah, like that, a clear distinction if you have to set up, then how you will do that.
Okay.
The side which is asking for data is client side, right? Providing the data is server side, isn't it?
No,
Uh,
it's not about client side or server side. We're talking about client side rendering and server side
hmm.
rendering. Okay,
So,
so
sir,
rendering is an important word. What do you mean by client side rendering? That for every request, you don't have to make a call to backend, right? Some of the functionalities of the application are happening with the state of the application, right? So you may have come across this word, the state of the application, state of the component, state of the UI, right? So what happens? There is a, let's say, a call done to the backend. Okay, the backend returns some data with that request. Okay, with the response, you got some data. Now the data that you have retrieved from the backend will be stored as the state of the component. Whichever component is now loaded, it will be stored within the state. Okay, not all, maybe not some. Some of that data is stored into the component. That data will decide what is shown on the component, because we say the UI is a function of state of the component. Okay.
yes, sir.
Now let's say, and since we have also seen SPS, what does that mean? Multiple information is fetched with one call itself, right? This means the client now has ability to not only show a particular set of information, to change the information based on client's interaction to it, right? So, for example, if I do a drop down, if I navigate from one page to the other, all these things will be done on the client side only, because the information relevant to that is already fetched in one call,
Okay,
right? So, or whatever is happening here is client side rendering.
okay.
Okay,
So can I
but at
say,
any stage, no, yeah, tell me.
yeah, so can I say if the final state of the website will be rendered and sent by the server, then I will call it server side rendering only. So let's
Yes,
say if I
yes.
set a timeout, and in that timeout, I will change a particular text in the website, nothing else that
Hmm,
JavaScript is doing, just
hmm,
the
hmm,
name is changing. And that script I will send also
hmm,
from the class itself.
hmm.
Still, I should call it client side because the final state will be changed. What I have sent and what the final state, both are different at the end result.
Yeah, yeah. So see, whatever you are seeing, if it is done by some programmatic nature on the client side, it is client side rendering, right? But the
Okay.
moment you want to change the data and that data requires some updation from the backend, then it no longer remains client side. It becomes server side.
It becomes server side rendered.
Yes. I mean, you can you can give a very simple example by a Mad1 application or a Mac application, right? In Mad1 application, you have view component, right? The view data decides what will be shown on the front end. But in Mad1 application, the backend, whatever data is sent by the backend, will decide how the application works. So that is a complete server-side rendering application.
Okay.
Mad1. Mad2 is partially client side, because some of the programmatic nature now is there with the client.
Hmm. So
Okay,
all the
and
agents.
with every change of UI, it is not necessary that you are making a backend call.
Mhm. Okay. So if any UI changes or any function of the state is
Hmm.
different from the initially what I have sent, then I can say it's client side.
Yeah, yeah, you can say, because then who is changing that data? Where is that data
Hmm.
coming
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. So like this was doubt from the time I was doing Madden, and
from?
I cleared it right now.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So it happens. some things remain unclear, and then when you actually do things, then you find the difference. Okay, this is the difference between what was happening before and now what is happening, right? So
Yeah, I got to talk to you on this topic right now. Like I
mhm.
somehow forgot to ask this doubt at that time.
All right, all right.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay then, all right. So with that we'll close this session. I hope this was explanatory enough. Go through this, go through the video, right? Try it on your own,
Sir,
and
is this
obviously
the
I'll share
majority?
the.
Yes,
Mhm.
sir. Sir, is this the majority of week 8 content?
Yes, yes, definitely. This is what you
Okay, sir.
will need to know, right? So, see, what happens is VKit also has Flash security component and all those things. But see, I look at VKit from the perspective of project, right? So, what is required from your project perspective, whatever we have discussed today is more than sufficient, right? So, you can implement authentication authorization with this.
Yes, sir. It was much helpful. Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right. So with that, we'll close. The code will be shared. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll
Thank
see
Sir,
you
good
you.
night, sir.
on Saturday. Yeah. Good night.